I think for me, the most difficult thing was to trust myself because my whole life I have thought I'm a pretty intelligent person. I have great intuition about people. And after that, I was like, I have been with somebody for 17 years and I have this picture of this person. It's not him. Like, this is not the person that I thought. And then you start thinking, is it possible for somebody to change to that extent? Is it possible that you just made up a picture in your mind? And is this something you do with everybody in your life? You just see them through your lens, you create somebody. It was just the doubt that came. And I think that was the hardest thing.
Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. I'm your host, Erica. Starting over in your mid-30s or 40s or even your 50s is not for the faint of heart. When divorce enters your life and causes a rebuild of all the structures and who you thought you were, it can be the biggest catalyst for you to meet your truest, most authentic self. We have a guest on today who is sharing her powerful story of transformation. Welcome, Sona. I'm excited to have you on, and I'm grateful that you're here to share your stories from the other side, how you have made it through and have found yourself on the other side of divorce.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, especially to be talking to you, because I know that you don't like when people get stuck in their story and they're working on bettering themselves and finding, their true self. So I'm really excited and honored to be here.
Well, thank you. I found you through the beautiful algorithm. Sometimes it really is a good thing when Instagram filters things for us. So I caught one of your reels and it really focused on your story of transformation that, hey, this thing happened and I had to figure out who I was. And in fact, your entire Instagram handle, I think it's the reel that you have pinned, was like, come along for the journey. I am trying to figure out what this life looks like in this second chapter that I've started. So tell us a little bit about your story. If there's kids, how long you've been divorced, and kind of what brought you to here.
Um, all right. So I was married for 17 years. Actually, I always say I was married for 17 years because, like, I consider from the time that we started living together that marriage, because that's how it felt to me. It has been a little bit less, but we were together for 17 years. And the first 15 years, it felt like we had the dream relationship, the most beautiful story. And we were the couple that everybody looked up to and said that because of us, they believe in love and a healthy relationship. And then around the 15-year mark, I found out that I didn't really know my husband. And I wanted out because I found out that he betrayed me and not just cheated on me, but truly betrayed me. And maybe I'll get into it a little bit more. Um, and then I decided to leave, but within 2 weeks, I realized the kids were getting affected. So I thought I owe it to them to try my absolute best to do everything that I needed to do to see if I could work on this relationship. But after 2 years, it was obvious to me that nothing could be done. And I left. I left with no regrets. And the last mm, 5 years, in June, it will be 5 years since I left, has been the most um, growing part of my life. Like, I've grown more in the last 5 years than maybe in my entire life. So That's
Right.
my story in short.
I love that because I do think that we fall into certain patterns, in a relationship. We can stay the same way for a very long time because we're moving through the motions until something disrupts that story, right? Until we find out if there was infidelity or betrayal or other things that were irreparable. I want to celebrate you though for making that choice. You found out about the infidelity and you left, but you observed that how much it hurt your children. And in that moment you made the choice to say, "Okay, can I work through this?" And that is such a powerful stance to take, to say, I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing to try because we want to do what we can for our kids. And
Yeah.
sometimes the answer is still that we have to leave. Do
Mhm.
you recall what helped you make that decision? Because that place of do I stay or do I go is where we all get stuck the longest.
Hmm. Um, for me, the answer came before I actually left. What happened was, um, we tried a lot of things. I tried to forgive, I tried to work with it, but once the trust is gone
Yeah.
and your partner is not really trying to gain that trust back, he can say he's trying all he wants, but it's all about the actions, not the words. And his actions weren't showing me that he was trying to gain my trust back.
Mm.
And there was this one time when it ended up being our last therapy session. I just knew. I knew that there was no hope for us because he was not willing to put in the work. And I just knew. And that day I came home and I decided that I was going to become the best version of myself, the healthiest, happiest version of myself. And this might seem odd to a lot of people, but I started hoping that he would meet somebody and let me go with peace because at that point we were um he just didn't even want to hear the word divorce. Every time the word divorce came out of my mouth, he would get aggressive. He would tell me all kinds of really abusive, verbally abusive things. Anything from he's going to take the kids away from me to I'm going to end up on the street and all that kind of stuff. And even though I'm a strong person and I know that I could um, fight to not end up there. I just didn't want all of that negativity and the fights and the arguments and the kids to be in it. So I was kind of hoping that he would come to a point where he would see with his eyes that this was not going anywhere and it was time to let me go. And that time finally came. He met somebody um and we decided that it was time to separate.
I love that twist in your story because it's rare that two people both land on the realization of divorce at the same time. Usually one person gets there first and then the other person has got to line up to it. And in my world, I love living by the path of least resistance, which means that sometimes we have to give people a little bit more time to line up to it. And I think that that was a really creative way to make the path easier, right? To allow somebody else to also see that, oh, there is something outside of this. And maybe we do need to
Yeah.
let this chapter close so that we can move forward.
Mhm. The only interesting thing, not I'm gonna repeat that. When we decided that it was time, we actually weren't going to get a divorce. When we were discussing separation, he kind of hoped that we would come back together one day. In my mind, I was thinking, you know what, maybe he's having some kind of a crisis. He needs to hit rock bottom. And I've tried to help him get out of it, but like there comes a time when you're just unless the person wants to change, there's nothing you can do to make them change. So I was like, maybe he needs to go through this. Maybe he'll hit rock bottom. He
Yeah.
will understand or he will become better and then we'll get back together. But when I left, within a month, it was like he was a complete stranger. He started doing things that was like, I don't know this person. And it was very clear to me that there was no going back, and I just went and filed for divorce. And I thought because he had met somebody, because he was seemingly happy, at least that's what he said, that this transition was going to be easy, that the co-parenting was going to be easy, but there was no co-parenting, there was no friendship. It was just like I knew somebody and then that person was gone. I think that's when my heart really broke. It wasn't even during the marriage, all the betrayal and everything. It was just after filing for divorce that my heartbreak happened. And then the few years after that, that every day was like a new surprise of like, who is this person? Who is this person? I thought our romantic relationship was over, but we were going to be friends for life because we basically grew up together. But there's that person is gone.
Yeah.
So that's when um, things really changed.
I still struggle with that. Like we're 10 years post divorce and some days I have no idea who that person is, or the choices he's making. And that's a hard piece to let go of. I had the same thing that I had hoped when we finally decided to get divorced, it took us 2 years to get to that point.
Mhm,
It took me 2 years to get to that point because I was the one that filed. He continued to carry on with the affair, never
mhm,
asking for the divorce, just, I don't know why I don't wanna work on it, right?
mhm.
So when I finally filed, I was sitting in a space of I really truly believed that we could be just great co-parents. It was a chapter. The chapter had to end. Our path was not meant to continue on, but I'm grateful for the years we had. I'm grateful for our son that we had in the middle. And I had the same hopes that, hey, we're just going to continue to do this life together.
Yeah.
And now I don't even know how that would have been possible. Part of me almost laughs at that hope because I
Mhm,
think that that was also a little bit of fear about being able to really move on. Like, what does my life look like if he's not actually in it? Or how do we function? How do I function as a parent of a son without his dad having an active role? And it's
yeah.
interesting how it does just work out, but it's a lot of grief that comes out.
Did you ever take some time to grieve, like, just accept the fact that it's over for good? Or are you still like, is there any kind of hope that that person will come out or anything like that?
Yeah, so I also hit a spell of really deep grieving once it was final. And I had
Mhm,
spent those 2 years in separation. The first year was obsessed about trying to fix it. Hey, we can fix this. We can get back together. The second year was really rooted in who do I want to be and what kind of a partner do I want to have and how
mhm,
do how do I want that to look like going forward, which is what got me the clarity of we don't want the same things anymore.
mhm,
He's not willing to work on it. I'm ready to be in partnership and collaborate with somebody. So I knew that that was our separating point. But
mhm.
once it was final, that's when a lot of the grief really hit me that it
Yeah.
was truly over. Even though for 2 years, I knew that we were on a path, even though it was a very long ending, right? From
Mhm,
finding out about the infidelity to actually getting the, like, stamp from the court system, but it didn't become real until after, and it took me a
mhm.
few weeks, like, very hard to get off the couch or do anything else, and then little by little, you line back up to the reasons you knew that it was right to end it.
Mhm.
That I know that we were not meant to continue, that we wanted different things, that how we wanna be in a relationship was different, that what I want in a partner, he was not willing to be. And
Yeah.
then you line back up to that, and then you are able to accept and process and let go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a journey, though. It is a constant,
Yeah.
journey because we're in the middle
Especially
of
if you it's
right?
for life.
Because do you have 2 kids? Do you have 2 or 3?
We do.
2, yeah. Because that's the thing too, I think when I look at who I choose to serve, like with the podcast or with the community offerings or the programs, it's divorced moms. Because yes, divorce is difficult for anybody, but if you don't have kids, you don't really have to keep seeing that person. You can
Yeah.
just like cut
Yeah, you can just
ties, shut
sign
that
or
book.
run.
Yeah. Be like, peace out, not see you later ever again. And you still grieve and it still hurts and you still
Mhm.
are losing what you wanted for your life. But there is something extra about having to continue to co-parent with that person. The
Yes.
person who like broke your heart, who betrayed you, and then who does become somebody completely different. That you're like,
Mhm.
where was this person the whole time we were married?
Yeah.
What did you find the hardest? Was it that grief that hit after, or was there something else that was the most difficult for you as you navigated this?
I think for me, the most difficult thing was to trust myself because my whole life
Oh,
I have thought, I'm a pretty intelligent person. I have great intuition about people. And after that, I was like, I have been with somebody for 17 years and I have this picture of this person and it's not him. Like this is
yeah.
not the person that I thought. And then you start thinking, is it possible for somebody to change to that extent? Is it possible that you just made up a picture in your mind? And is this something you do with everybody in your life? You just see them through your lens, you create somebody. It was just the doubt that came. And I think that was the hardest thing. Also, I think just the co parenting, because
Mm.
for me, when I left, I was actually really excited. He was the first and only man I had ever been with. And I was just so excited because at that point, the love was gone and I wanted out. And so I was excited. And the first year was, other than the court, that was the hardest thing. But if we put the court, the documents, the filling out, and all of that aside, it was a very exciting and adventurous year for me. And then after that, it was the first time that it hit me. I was like, oh my God, it was like a friend died, like it was the first time that I realized once I had all the fun out of my system, I was like, oh, I had a friend. We did everything together. We were together 24/7 since the day we met. And that person is no longer there. So that was the grief for me.
Mm.
And then afterwards, the co-parenting I think he thinks we're amazing at co-parenting and he's so easy and everything. It's because I don't say anything because I've realized if you say anything, what is the point? It doesn't change. Even if he says, oh, yeah, you're right. Let's do that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
He doesn't really keep his promises. And then I'm going to get frustrated. So I have had to accept like when the kids are there, he has his way of parenting. When the kids are with me, I have my way of parenting and I don't interfere into that. And I've accepted that he is the person that he is. But
Mm.
sometimes like there are things that happens like, oh my God, like it just makes me so upset and disappointed. But I just process it by moving, by dancing, by journaling, by meditating, by doing all kinds of like healthy practices to process it out of my system. But I don't bring it up to him because nothing's going to change. It's just going to put oil on fire.
Yeah, that's a powerful self-awareness though, because so many women move into the divorce and still want to control what happens at the other house
Yeah.
because they're doing it because they care about their kids. They're
Yes.
not doing it because they still want to control their ex. They're doing it because they want things to be easier on their children. And so
Absolutely.
they see these opportunities of how they want the other parent to be, and they get stuck in these dark places of frustration and anger at the other parent because he doesn't do it the way that they are dictating he do it. And the answer is not getting him to change. It is letting go. It is really looking at what can I control, what can I influence, and what am I just going to turn over because the only person it's hurting is me to get frustrated or wound up about it. And yes, they
Yep.
that kind of ties into your comment about did I even know him? How did I choose to see him differently because all of a sudden you're like, who is this person parenting? We've done things the same way this whole time. Super random, but the one that got me was he changed the laundry detergent. And I was like, "We have bought the same laundry detergent for over 10 years, and now you send this kid back and he smells different and funny because you washed his clothes in something else." It's like the weirdest random things show up.
Did it take you time to go into full acceptance and not fight it anymore that things are different? Or was it like instant from the beginning? It was like that.
It was hard for us because the other woman was still in the picture. And so what
Mhm.
happened was, when we finally sat down and said, okay, divorce is the next step, it was just the two of us. We wrote our own divorce decree. We, negotiated it together. We both felt good about it, hired one lawyer, split the fee. Like I hired the lawyer, he paid for half of it. We walked away. Almost instantly, the other woman was like, "Well, I didn't agree to it," and started digging in and, "No, the dog can't come over. No, I'm unwilling to do this. If you don't wanna talk to me directly, I'm not gonna allow you to do A, B, and C." And so it went very quickly from, like, 2 people who had to co-create and work together and co-parent to a 3rd person who had a lot of
Mhm.
opinions because she was trying to build her new relationship. And
Mhm,
so and
mhm.
she was young, she was in way over her head. She was being triggered by her own insecurities. They had started as an affair, and so it was instantly like, "You wanna go back with your wife?" And I'm like, "Nope, he's yours, have him." But, like, she wouldn't allow us to text, she wouldn't allow us to talk about our son, she needed to be included in everything. So that was hard because I fought to uphold what was in the divorce decree, and I fought to uphold the fact that he needed, in my opinion, to grow up and become an adult who could co-parent with me before we put a 3rd person in the mix. And I fought that for a long time, and it made me absolutely miserable. Because at the end of the
That must
day,
have been so frustrating.
yeah, like, he didn't he'd tell me one thing, he'd tell her another thing. Like you're saying, he'd do whatever he wanted to anyways. He wouldn't toe the line of whatever he agreed to. So I had to just turn it over. Like, kid's supposed to be dropped off at 7, 7:30 comes around, he's stopped responding to any text messages about where he is or why he's late, and I would just have to remind myself, my child is safe, my child will be coming back to me. This is just a thing he's doing to try and either mess with my night or control what happens on my side. And so I
Yeah.
just stepped out of it and chose instead to focus on the relationship with my son.
Yeah. Another thing that helped me when stuff like that was happening was sometimes remind myself that I don't 100% know that he's doing this to upset me. Maybe he's just doing this because he simply doesn't care, because it just is more convenient for him. And I know that he cares a lot about his convenience, about what works for him.
Yeah.
And it's just not extending his thought process to include another person. But once I would reframe it like that, it would become easier for me, because my initial thing, especially if I was in burnout, I would assume he's doing this to hurt me, he's doing this to annoy me, he's doing this to, make me sad or whatever. But then the minute I would just reframe it, he's doing this because this is how he is. It has nothing to do with me. It would just instantly become a little bit lighter on my heart.
Yeah, that's a powerful shift because we always think it's about us. We think there's so much
Yeah.
retaliation. And I don't know, men are a lot simpler. Women, often about retaliation and about causing pain back and
Yeah.
making him suffer. Men,
Mhm.
they just want what's ever easiest. They
Yeah.
just wanna do what is most convenient in their day and in
Exactly.
their life, and there usually isn't a backstory behind it or a motivation behind it, but
Yeah.
we put it there and we get worked up, and then we're the only
And
ones
I
that are
think that's
affected.
one of the biggest reasons for me specifically to really prioritize my healthy practices, because if I don't
Mhm.
do them, I go into that mentality where it's very hard to accept. It's very
Yeah.
hard to not think that it's all about you. And when I do that, when I make myself a little bit happier, fill my life with joy, it's easier to accept them the way they are and
Mhm.
not take things personally. Because if you take things personally, if you're in burnout, if your ego is active, or what I mean, not, I don't call it, Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body, but when your pain body is active, everything is, you take more personal. And that's why it's so important. Every time a divorced mom asks me, like, what would you recommend? What should I do? I'm like, number one, take care of your mental health. Do little things that make you happy and fill your
Yeah.
cup, because it's just going to be easier to process everything if you are in that state.
Yeah, it becomes your number one priority. We think our number one priority is our kids, but your number one priority has to be maintaining your, like, mental health, your wellness. I knew
Yes.
I needed to eat, I needed movement, I needed sleep. Even this weekend, I didn't get a lot of sleep, and what showed up? A whole bunch of negative, anxious thinking, a big old
Yes.
spiral that I knew wasn't real because I'm
Mhm.
far enough out of it now that I can see the pattern. But back in those first years, you couldn't get out of it. You know, once that pulled you down into a spiral of how you're never gonna get through this and there's never gonna be enough money and you're always gonna be alone, it feels so hopeless. So you just gotta get aggressive on protecting what you need to maintain your good mental space.
I couldn't agree more. Anytime I've prioritized the kids ahead of my mental state,
Mhm.
all 3 of us have suffered more.
100%. And I used to do that. You know, one of the ways we step into it is my ex works big box retail. And so he'd have to work different hours or different shifts. And so all of a sudden he'd be like, well, I can take him on my hours, but he'll be with a babysitter or you can keep him. And so I started taking him more and
Uh,
then I was running on low because I didn't have those couple days off to
yes.
recharge and get things set and just process out what I needed to process out. But in the moment, it was a really hard decision. And I did that choice for a lot of years. I put my son in there first because I didn't want him with a sitter, but it made things a little bit harder on that road to recovery for sure.
I can't even tell you how deeply that resonates with me. So deeply. Oh my god.
Yeah, and I'm not saying not do it. Do it. We all do it, but do it with the intention of understanding that it's gotta be a short-term solution. It can't be a forever solution that you continue to self-sacrifice because you probably self-sacrificed, and that's one of the reasons that your marriage suffered
Yes.
because you lost you. You lost the things
Yes.
that lit you up. Now, I found snowboarding and hiking and lifting very heavy weights. What did you find? What
Oh my
energized
god,
you?
that's so cool. I also found snowboarding during that 2 years that I told you I was still with him, but prioritizing my happiness. Ever since I was, like, 18, 19 years old, I had dreamt of winter sports because I met this friend, in college, and she was the friend that I had dreamt about my whole childhood. And one time, like, she invited me to her winter cottage, and I saw her entire family from the grandfathers to, like, the little kids, everybody skiing and snowboarding and this whole culture, and they had their own special dances, jokes, and the snowboarding and skiing. It just felt like this is all I have ever wanted as a kid to have this kind of a thing. So, but I never tried because my husband wasn't really into sports, into going to the beach. It was too sandy for him. And um, during those 2 years, I was like, I'm going to try everything I've ever wanted to do. And one of them was snowboarding. I started camping. I picked up skateboarding. That one was to learn so I could teach my girls because I thought it's so cool if a girl can skateboard. And they weren't into it. I taught them, but I got obsessed and I have been skateboarding since, like, I don't know, COVID. And now I do parks and uh, now I create dances on the skateboard. It's just like, oh, there's so many things. Um, Another thing is I have started writing, and that's my ultimate goal to become a published writer one day.
Yeah.
And I'm starting small. And part of the reason why I started Sona Starts Fresh on Instagram was to try out my writing by writing tiny essays and make them into voiceovers and record videos and post them. And that's how it went from like 300 followers to 60,000 within like a couple of months because my story really spoke to people. So now it's giving me more hope that I can actually go that route and make people feel like they can relate to, I don't know, make them feel seen in their
Yeah.
experience.
I love that, and I love the piece about it's a little bit at a time. Because I don't know about you, but I felt really overwhelmed because now there wasn't a backup. You know, you forget an ingredient, you got to drag the kid to the grocery store, or somebody else couldn't take over bedtime because I had to work late. So a lot of times I'd be up
Mhm.
till 2 in the morning catching up on work while still trying to do everything else. And so it felt impossible to think that I could start something else because I felt like so much
Mhm.
of my time was already
Yes.
taken. But when
Mhm.
you start a little bit, like, I would have never guessed that you just recently, within the last 6 years, started skateboarding based on the videos I saw on your Instagram. Because I was like, "Dang, she must have always been skateboarding." But no, that is a post-divorce new trick. Uh, but it's that piece. You just try it out. You just do a little bit. And with the book too, you just write a chapter and it sits somewhere, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden the next little piece comes to life. I love that. And
Yeah.
I do really love your short essays that you put on voiceover on your, reels. I was watching those
Thank you
quite a
so
bit.
much.
Yeah.
Some of those hobbies were actually hobbies that I picked up while we were still together. I don't
Yeah.
think I would have had the time to do it after, because after our divorce, my financial situation went, and I tell the whole story, but um
But let's dive
I
into that because I wanted
Mhm.
to ask you about that too, because finances are a big reason that women either stay longer
Yeah.
or that they are so stressed out because how am I gonna pay the bills or pay off the lawyer or pay whatever, but you made a very conscious choice to leave a more luxury-based life, a higher
Mhm.
revenue, like, you left money to choose
Yeah.
to start over. So tell us a little bit more about that, and mainly, how did you find the courage to not worry about the
Well,
money?
in the beginning, it wasn't about courage, it was about believing him, because he said that he was gonna take care of me and the kids, and everything was gonna be great. We were gonna be great co-parents. We were just separating. And then, I think a part of me knew better, but I was just so feeling so relieved that I was leaving, that I was making myself believe that, no, he's telling the truth. Everything is gonna be great. And, that's how I left, thinking that everything was gonna be great. But after I filed for divorce, suddenly, everything shifted. The payments got less, and, suddenly he wasn't willing to even pay alimony after all those years together, and everything. But at that point was when I decided, I kind of knew where this was going, and I knew that I had very limited time. So I fought for the bare minimum that I knew was gonna protect me and the kids for a little bit until my business took off.
Mhm.
So I agreed to whatever terms he had. I didn't wanna fight because the first court appearance was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Like, the things that he said, I didn't wanna go back. So I just came back. I cried for a few days, and I called him and said I would sign it. And the same day, I started a business, which was gonna both, help me carry out my purpose in life, which is, helping moms, and at the same time, become the thing that was gonna bring me income. And it's now been 4 years since I have been running my business, and I'm still not where it supports me completely. So I have to take jobs on the side, do whatever needs to be done to have the lifestyle that is important to me. And the lifestyle that's important, for me and the kids is, um, enough money for like health practices
Mhm.
and travel, because that's my essence. And now it has become my kids' essence too. So I still have a long way to go, but I have zero doubt in my life that I'm going to achieve great things, because I'm very resilient, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes to provide me and my kids with the lifestyle that I want.
Yeah. Moms have grit, right? We just
Yeah.
get it done. We figure it out. Do we worry about it? For sure. Do we cry about it? Absolutely. But then do we figure out a solution so that we can continue to move forward? 100%.
Yep. Yeah. I spent last year actually was the hardest year of my life. That's when he unexpectedly stopped paying child support, and I had to pivot. And I spent maybe 6 months in complete survival mode where I would wake up with the worst, scariest thoughts in the world. And it was really bad. It was
Yeah.
so bad that it pushed me to the edge to the point where I was like, I will do anything I need to do, even the things that scare me, that um, are uncomfortable, but I will do anything not to ever be in the state again where I
Mhm.
wake up with the worst thoughts. I go to sleep with the worst thoughts, with shame and self hatred. It came to the point where it was like, it was really bad. So that's why, but I'm so grateful I went through that, because now anytime I talk to somebody who's going through depression, I will never, say, "Oh, just get over it," or like look at it as if it's something easy to fix. I know what it feels like to live in fear or indifference or pain. So it gives me more power to help people
Mhm.
on a deeper level. So, and also to push me to my limits, because that place was not a fun place to be. I'm serious when I say I would rather not be alive than live like that for an extended period of time. It was really bad.
Yeah, I feel you on that one because definitely that money worry, things can just shift. And when you find yourself in such a space, because I too was, waking up in the middle of the night, panic attacks about how am I going to pay for things, and the money is not rolling the way that it should, or increased expenses, and it feels like you're never going to get out of it. And I think
Yeah.
if you're a woman sitting in that space, and then I'd love to hear how you got out of it. For me, it it was just the attempting to shift the thoughts every single time. They'd
Yeah.
show up and I'd be like, "Okay, I know that this is not real. Why am I feeling this way? I just felt fine. I just felt steady, but now I can't catch my breath and I can't change my thoughts." And
Mhm.
when we stay in the spiral, we constantly see the places it's not working, it gets worse. But it
Yeah.
doesn't shift overnight. It shifts by me first showing up and being like, "Okay, hold on. You just felt fine yesterday. So something
Yeah.
is not true because you were fine. Now you're not. So
Yeah.
go find one of those happy practices. Go try and distract yourself. Go do something else. Take a nap." And
Yeah.
just staying committed to challenging those thoughts because there
Mhm.
isn't a quick win. There isn't a quick, here's the magic wand that fixes it. But do you
Yeah.
remember what you did to get out of the depth of some of those feelings and thoughts?
I do. So I grew up with a very critical mom, and she passed away, and I adore her and I love her. And I think that she tried to be the best mom that she could. And financially and physically, she went above and beyond to do everything for me and my brother to have the best life. But because she was giving all of herself to be able to do those things, she
Mhm.
never had the filled cup to take care of my emotional needs.
Yeah.
And she wanted me to become a strong person. And to her, becoming a strong person, she needed to constantly criticize and tell me what I couldn't achieve and stuff, because her personality was different. She thought, like, if people told her she couldn't do something, she would do anything to prove them wrong. And she thought this kind of parenting was going to make me strong like her too. But we have different personalities. For me, that critical voice
Mm.
made me doubt myself, really damaged my confidence and my self talk. And I realized that her voice had become my voice. And during those really scary times, I was talking to myself even worse than, like, I would never talk to my kid or my friend
Yeah.
even if they sucked, like, even if they did everything wrong, I would never tell them those things that I was telling myself. And every day I would decide I'm going to do this thing and I wouldn't do it. I would be so harsh on myself. The critical
Mhm.
voice, it's the worst voice that you could imagine. And when you're already in a bad state and you're talking to yourself like that, it doesn't help you get up. It pushes you deeper into the,
Yeah.
what's that thing that drags you down? Um, it's like dirt and water together. I don't know. I forgot the word,
Oh,
but
yeah.
in
What is
Armenian,
the
it's
word?
jahich, like the thing that drags you down even more. And I would feel even more, even worse. So I decided what I was going to do was I saved a childhood picture of myself on my phone. And every time I would talk like that to myself, I would be like, you're talking to this little girl. Like, you're
Mm,
talking to her, you know? And then I would switch my language. And then I decided that I'm going to celebrate myself even for the tiniest wins, even if it's just getting up in the morning and taking my kids to school. That was a winning day.
yeah.
If I was going to answer one email, I did amazing. So little by little, by just nurturing myself and treating myself like I was a precious being instead of this person that I could just say the worst words to and she would be fine. Little by little, I
Mm,
started getting out of it. And also, another thing is, my entire life, I have put everybody's needs ahead of my own. And it was because I'm very capable. Every time that I could do something, I would choose to do it for them. So one thing that I reframed that really helped me, if somebody asked me for a favor and I knew this was very important for this person because I love this person and I want to help and stuff, right? If I asked myself, my adult self, hey, can you do this? I would be, of course, yeah, I can do it. But then I would ask this little girl inside me, hey, do you want to do this? Do you have the bandwidth to do this? It was so much easier to choose her
mm,
um, above the person who needed the favor than to choose myself, my older self. And that's a very tiny reframe, but like I was like, it just became very easy to choose her. And even when I was comparing my kids' needs to hers, I was like, my kids have a strong person who nurtures them emotionally, physically, in every way. This little girl has never had anybody to fight for her to emotionally satisfy her needs. So I am
mhm.
responsible for this little girl. So every time she came into the equation instead of the adult me, I chose her more and more. And the more I filled her cup and tended to her needs, the stronger I got. And I finally got myself out of it.
Beautiful and so simple to start. You know, everybody
Mhm.
can change that picture on their phone. Everybody or just put it up, put a little picture of yourself up and start
Yeah.
speaking to yourself like that little girl. I love
Yeah.
that. Is there any other advice you'd like to leave women who are sitting in a similar position before we wrap up our show today?
Um, I would just say be present.
Mm,
Try as much as you can not to look to the past and the future. For me, it's not as much about the past, but the future. Oh my God. Sometimes I just catastrophize like crazy and just go so far into the future as if I have already retired and I'm worried about like, what if I'm not there yet, and anything can happen. I might not even make it to that. Why am I stressing now about something I can't control? So always bring yourself to the current moment and also just be kind to yourself. You were you have been given just one responsibility in this life. You have been given this body, this person, your spirit is inside this person,
yeah.
and you're supposed to take care of this person. Be kind to that person, nourish the body, nourish the mind, and don't be an asshole to yourself like I have been my whole life.
That's gonna be the quote we use to start this episode. Don't be
I
an
hope it's
asshole
not
to yourself.
futures.
Love it. It's true though. We are so tough on ourselves. And
Yeah,
when you're navigating divorce, it's probably a brand new thing. You haven't done it before. And we beat
yeah.
ourselves up about, choices of the past, or I call it future tripping. You're future tripping if you're like
Oh
down the
my God.
path of like, what is gonna happen? Stop. Come back
That's
to
the
the present
perfect
moment.
word.
Yeah, right. Future tripping. Come back to the present moment. Give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, and speak to that little girl because she needed somebody to advocate for her. Sona, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing all of your brilliant wisdom. I cannot wait for you to reach out and tell me your book has launched. But until then, you guys, I highly recommend you give Sona a follow. All of her links are down below in the show notes so that you can find her and follow her on her journey of rebuilding. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Erica. It was a really nice conversation, and I love talking to like minded women who are not only going through their journey, but helping others too when it's very hard for them to see that one day everything is going to be fine, you know?
One day, you guys, we promise you, we're both sitting here letting you know all of a sudden, just one day, you're like, oh, I get it. I get it now. It just
Hmm.
shows up. You have this clarity, you have this confidence, you have this knowing. So if you're stuck in the mud and you can't figure out what's going on, just one simple step, one simple practice, continue to focus on that compassion. And until next week, give yourself a little extra grace. And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.